All right, let's journey back in time. We're talking nearly 4,000 years ago to unearth one of the absolute weirdest stories from the ancient world. It's got everything: impossible births, a river packed with lost children, and a secret that might just flip what we know about an entire empire on its head.
It all kicks off with a single number, 30. Just 30. Why 30? Well, that's how many sons the Queen of Kanesh, this ancient city in modern-day Turkey, supposedly gave birth to. And get this, she had them all at once.
Yeah, those are her actual words, pulled straight from the ancient clay tablets that tell this story. You'd think it would be a miracle, right? Not to her. In her eyes, it was monstrous, unnatural. And what she did next, well, it kicked off a chain of events that is just as bizarre as it is tragic.
So, let's get into it. What on earth happened to this queen and her 30 sons? The story that's come down to us through all these thousands of years? It's like one part fairy tale and one part absolute royal nightmare.
Okay, so the legend plays out in a few key steps. First, you've got the shocking birth we talked about. The queen is so horrified that she stuffs her 30 sons into tar-sealed baskets and just tosses them into a river. That starts their river journey. The current carries them off to a faraway land called Zalpa, where, get this, they're found and raised by the gods. So, flash forward a few years. The queen gives birth again. This time it's 30 daughters, and these ones she actually raises herself. Now for the climax. The 30 sons, all grown up, decide to return to Kanesh to find their mom, but, of course, the gods have changed how they look. So their own mother has no idea who they are, and in this just wild twist of fate, she arranges for her 30 daughters to marry these 30 strangers, her own sons.
Right before things get, well, really weird, the youngest brother, you know how it is in these old stories, the youngest is always the smartest. He figures out the horrifying truth. He literally shouts, "Are we about to marry our own sisters? Don't go near them." And then, this is the frustrating part, the clay tablet breaks off. The rest of the story is just gone. It leaves us hanging right on the brink of this totally forbidden act. Okay, and this is where the story goes from just a weird old tale to something truly fascinating. See, historians look at this, and they don't just see a myth, they see a coded message. It's a clue, a piece of a much bigger historical puzzle. And the real kicker? They are in a huge debate over what that clue actually means. The whole argument, the entire debate, really boils down to one seemingly simple question. Which river are we talking about? Which river did the queen throw her kids into? Because depending on the answer, this story splits into two totally different competing ideas. So you've got two camps. In one corner, you have the sacred bond theory. This idea says the river was the Kızılırmak, which flows north up to the Black Sea. That path connects the Hittite capital, Kanesh, to a sacred city. But in the other corner, you have the political weapon theory. This one suggests the river was the Seyhan, which flows south to the Mediterranean. And that doesn't point to a holy friend, it points to a powerful enemy. So you see, one story, but two completely different maps, leading to two completely different conclusions. All right, let's dig into that first idea. What if this myth was actually a unifying, sacred story for the entire Hittite Empire? From this perspective, the story is basically a foundational myth, right? It's meant to create this legendary family tie between Kanesh and Zalpa, which were two really important Hittite cities. It also works as a handy justification for a real historical event, the conquest of Zalpa by a famous Hittite king, Anita. Think about it. If you frame the people you're conquering as long-lost cousins, the whole thing feels less like an invasion and more like a really violent family reunion. And, of course, that shocking cliffhanger ending? It's a pretty powerful way to hammer home the Hittites' very strict rules against incest. And, you know, the central idea here, a special kid being put in a river and miraculously saved, that's a classic. It's a timeless trope. We see it with Sargon of Akkad, we see it with Moses floating in the Nile, and with Romulus and Remus in the Tiber River. Whenever you see this motif, it's almost always a flashing sign that says, this person is special, they're protected by the gods, and they're destined for greatness. But what if that's all wrong? There's another way to look at this story, a much darker, much more cynical interpretation. What if this story wasn't meant to bring people together at all? What if it was designed to tear them apart? To really get this second theory, there's a key word you need to know: polemic. A polemic isn't just a story, it's an attack. It's ancient propaganda, pure and simple. A story crafted as a weapon for a very real war, both cultural and military. So the argument goes like this. The Hittites, who were a very patriarchal society, were in conflict with a powerful enemy, Zalpa. And this enemy might have had a matriarchal culture, one centered around powerful women. For the Hittites, that could have been seen as deeply unnatural, deeply threatening. So what do? You create a story to slander them, to make them look bad.
Now, in this version, the city of Zalpa isn't some small town up on the Black Sea. No, it's a major player on the Mediterranean coast. And the whole point of the story? To delegitimize them, to tear down their reputation. I mean, if you portray the founders of your enemy's city as the incestuous bastard children from a monstrous dog-like birth, well, you're not just fighting them anymore. You're painting them as so corrupt and unnatural that destroying them becomes a moral duty.
And here's the thing, there's actual archaeological evidence that might support this. The ruins at a site called Tilmen Höyük, which is the candidate for this Mediterranean Zalpa, reveal a huge, wealthy city. We're talking palaces, temples, massive city walls. This wasn't some backwater town. This was a powerhouse, exactly the kind of enemy you'd bother to create an entire smear campaign for.
So, here we are, left with two really compelling but completely opposite ways to read the exact same bizarre story. So, where does that leave us?
Which one is it? Is this a sacred story that helped build an empire? Or is it a political weapon, a lie designed to destroy an enemy? You know, the truth is, the answer might actually be both. Or maybe asking which theory is true is the wrong way to think about it.
Because the real lesson here, the real takeaway from this ancient mystery isn't about picking a winner. It's about realizing the incredible power that stories have. A powerful narrative can build a national identity. It can justify a war. It can draw the line between what a society considers moral and what it calls monstrous. And what this tale really shows us is that history itself is often just a battleground of competing stories.
And that brings us right back to today, doesn't it? 4,000 years have passed, but we are still swimming in powerful stories, narratives designed to shape how we see the world. So the real question that the Queen of Kanesh leaves for us is this: whose stories are we believing today? And more importantly, why?